Next, we have Donna Pucciani, who was one of the first people who ever read a Waterline Writers 5 years ago. Donna has published poetry on 4 continents. Her work has been translated into Italian, German, Chinese, and Japanese, and has appeared in such varied journals as The Pedestal, Acumen, Shijiao Poetry, is that close enough? Poetry Salzburg, Istanbul Literary Review, and Journal of the American Medical Association. She is reading from her 7th and most recent book of poems, Edges, which is available tonight. And do you have other books here tonight as well? Okay, for $15, special Waterline price. You can find her at donnapuccianipoet.wordpress.com. Donna?
Good evening, everyone, and a special thanks to Ann and Kevin for inviting me back, and thanks to all of you for coming out tonight to this delightful and inspirational space. As I was deciding what to read tonight, I decided to read some people poems about persons who have influenced me in one way or another through my life. Some are living, some are dead, so I'd like to share those with you tonight. First is a poem about my Aunt Betty from New Orleans. My mother's whole side of the family is from the Gulf Coast. And this poem is called Back Scratcher. As a child, I, the Yankee from Jersey, would visit Betty, my aunt and godmother in New Orleans, for summers drenched in mosquitoes and melted popsicles. Unlike my mother, she let me run barefoot through the rough St. Augustine grass, walk to the store 2 blocks away with a handful of change for white bread and root beer, and catch snails along the way, darting among the 7 dwarfs in her manicured garden. Now, when backache threatens, I think of mornings down south, dewy with humidity, 7 air conditioners rattling. I'd pad out of my bedroom and collapse into her arms. She'd already been up for hours brewing coffee, stirring pots of red beans and rice. But when we hugged, her long, tapered, red lacquered nails would scratch my back right through the ragged cotton pajamas, like the beaks of rare birds sent from heaven to spread comfort to the tortured below. It was a grand awakening to be loved like this, and now that she's gone to her grave with Parkinson's, diabetes, senility, and who knows what all else, I hope that some kind nurse at the hospital or some dog-tired aide sat by her bed, lifted her up, and scratched her back with fingertips soft as roses. The next poem I'd like to read is about my grandmother on the other side of the family, the New York Italian side. And it's based on a picture of my Nonna, which hangs in the hallway at my house. And every time I pass it, her beady little eyes follow me. So this is a poem called Eyes. The photo of Nonna in the hall shows full face her hawkish visage. The wrinkled tissue skin, kinky hair braided around her shrunken head, mouth folded inward where teeth used to be, and dominating all, riveting bird eyes sunk in a pale skull over a thin beaky nose and the high cheekbones I'd love to have inherited. But somewhere behind the cataracts that veil her vision with a milky caul, there had to be the blue of sky and sea, as all my other elders clearly rode through life and photographs with dark, piercing Italian black olive eyes, or the French-Spanish orbs polished amber or steeped in espresso. Nonna, it had to be you who gave me the cornflower blue. Next is a poem about Ernesto Pucciani. He's an ancient uncle of mine who's a Franciscan priest in a monastery in southern Italy. It lives way up on the mountain in this monastery. And we discovered each other after I retired a few years ago and had the time to research my family tree. And I found out that he had known my Nonna, the Nonna of the beady eyes, and that he was indeed my cousin. I have met with him several times on that mountain, and I've dined with him in the monastery refectory. We love each other dearly, even though he speaks no English and my Italian is così. So he just turned 90, so this poem is dedicated to Padre Ernesto, and it's called Padre Ernesto Peels an Apple. When Padre Ernesto peels an apple, he looks at it carefully, noting color and texture. He gives thanks. In the monastery refectory, his boyish hair like snowdrifts, his hands pale as the moon in the hooded cassock of night, Ernesto focuses. The most important thing in the universe now is the centimeter where knife meets fruit, leaving a bloodless wound, the belief that this cutting is necessary for sustenance. Blade slices peel, rounding to match the bulbous red and separate it clean and cold from crisp fruit. Crimson swivels on a white plate. He cuts the firm flesh into slices, letting the core fall to the side with bunches of dark seeds. In its place, a delicious emptiness. Faith is a gift. Everything stops for the soul's pure autumn, the essence of apple, knife, tongue. On a visit to southern Spain a few years ago, I had the opportunity to watch the flamenco dancers in the caves north of Granada. And I will still remember those women who are described in this poem. It's called Flamenco. The best dancers are not the slender young women with lipstick and scarlet ruffles, nor the young men who fancy themselves latent toreadors stamping faster and harder than rain on a cave roof. The best dancers are the leather-faced old women, black-shawled, with castanets and fans, strong as bulls, barrel-chested, big-breasted, with heavy legs, fleshy arms, and coal-penciled eyes dark as dying planets. Their grandchildren have picked our pockets on the buses near the Alhambra, and now we pay to see them dance in the caves of Granada. They lift their skirts behind them to show clicking heels, calves marbled with ropey veins. The tourists are herded after the show into a night of cobbled streets and whitewashed hotels, leaving the gypsies with hands burning from synchronized clapping, their ancient guitars silent. They drive home to paint-peeled caravans in the field beyond the mountain. Before sleep, the grandmother sifts her hennaed hair from tortoiseshell combs, spreads it out on the pillowed moon. But first, she counts the coins she earned tonight. Her feet have turned to rock. She never dreams. The next poem is a tribute to some booksellers that I encountered a few years ago when I had the pleasure of going to Sicily, a little town on the mountain overlooking the sea. And when my travel companions, my husband and my in-laws, decided to go up Mount Etna that day, I chose to witter away the afternoon in the bookstore and make friends with these ladies who are just wonderful. So this is dedicated to them. It's called Booksellers, Taormina. Just above the Cyclops restaurant, up stone steps smelling of eucalyptus, broods the bookstore, breathing the decay of tarnished roses pasted under the noon rain. Inside, life is made of words and the kindness of women who leave their accounts to help a foreigner seeking books in Italian. My vocabulary is così così. I need books non troppo difficile, and they understand from my accent that I love their language in my clumsy, inept way, a language graceful as the cat stretched on the lintel, or the tide's foamless lassitude below the village. The donne rush to the shelves, offer mystery, but I shake my head. If I miss even one clue, sono finita. We move to romance. They make piles of their favorites, hand me crisp paperbacks with covers featuring shadowy figures, the sea. The airlines are strict about weight. We joke that turistas buy clothes or jewels, but books are più importanti. I pay, then find my way back into the world, down cobblestone alleys, swept by a warm wind. The next poem I'll read is a tribute to three separate friends of mine who were battling cancer a few years ago. And fortunately, they're all alive and kicking and very much with us today. So this is called A Trinity. Three friends of mine got chemotherapy today. Their cancers emerged in vital organs last spring like psychedelic mushrooms visible only on magical screens aglow in the dark of diagnostic imaging. Machines drip into fragile veins, the wondrous poisons that will kill the black flower at its root. Hope rises from the forest floor of abdomen, liver, and the sternum where a breast once clung. In the suburbs of Chicago, intensive treatment is required for the slow-growing serpent uncoiling in the stomach of the man from Italian class. May the snake not live to shed its skin, but die quickly. The elfin lady from church tires of needles, but perky as a kettle singing on a stove, she whistles in the dark, while north of London, Liz telephones to say she'd received the hats I sent for Christmas, blue, beige, and violet in soft knits to celebrate her new gift of baldness. While I listen, she tries them on, exclaiming in the mirror for my benefit. She had doffed her last wisp of hair in the October wind of Bakewell Village outside the lavender tea room. All three ride the beast of nausea, brains numb with fatigue, skins blistered, arms pierced with 100 holes. They thank me for ineffectual cards, casseroles, and caps. Liz laughs into the receiver, says she's had enough of toxins, she's ready for burning. I'll finish with a quick poem, a very lighthearted experiment with language called Wind Weaver, and it's certainly appropriate for the weather that we've been having lately. Wind Weaver. Tree cleaver, rock polisher, chimney chaser, roof whacker, flame blazer, ember whisker, hat snatcher, tress tousler, bone shaker, cloud changer, kite grinder, puddle shifter, rose rustler, daisy dipper, blossom blaster, tulip swisher, dandelion drifter, weed whistler, sand sweeper, beach batterer, wave wanderer, shell singer, sea scrambler, ocean ogler. Busy in Brooklyn, rambling in Reykjavik, dodging Dublin, rowdy in Rome, pouting in Prague, munching Mongolia, chewing Chernobyl, sweeping Siberia, plowing the pole, sifting the stars, winging to Venus, melting on Mars. Thank you.